Welcome to Congress Explained in a short amount of time as possible. Firstly, standing committees. The majority speaker assigns legislation to each committee. However, committees are very hard to get bills through, and only 3.5% of bills handed to committees in the 113th Congress were passed into law. Subcommittees hold hearings on bills using experts, constituents, executive branch and interest groups, and if they like the bill enough, they'll mark it up with the amendments made.
Subcommittees are formed within standing committees and report back to the full committees and are responsible to the parent committee.
Now, on to select committees. These are temporary committees created for a specific purpose. For example, the assassinations of MLK and JFK caused the formation of select committees.
House Rules Committees are a specific type of standing committees that has significant influence over the legislative process. They are responsible for deciding which bills from the other committees will be debated on the floor of the House.
Now, on to conference committees. The aim of a conference committee is to create a compromise bill which both chambers will pass. They are temporary committees, they only look at one bill, and they address the differences between the House and Senate versions of these bills. Conferees are made up from both chambers, and they need a majority of House conferees and a majority of Senate conferees to approve the bill before it's passed back to the Houses.
Joint committees are made up of members from both the House and the Senate and are similar to select committees. They are set up to conduct business between the two houses and to debate issues of national importance, often crossing across standing committees' jurisdictions. Chairmanship alternates between the House and Senate members from Congress to Congress. How are members of a committee and the chair selected? Before members can be assigned to committees, the size of each committee and the proportion of Republicans to Democrats must be decided by the party leaders. The number of committee slots allotted to each party is approximately the same as the ratio between the majority and minority members in the full chamber. Members are assigned to committees in a three-step process. Each party is responsible for assigning its members to committees, and each party uses a committee to make the decisions for assignments. At the beginning of a new Congress, members express preferences for which committee they'd like to be on. The deciding committee then matches preferences with committee slots, following certain guidelines to distribute the assignments fairly. They then produce an assignment list, which is submitted to the party and approved. Finally, it is submitted to the full chamber for approval, which is generally granted. The committee chairs are chosen by leaders of the majority party in Congress. Before the 70s, a seniority rule existed which meant that the person who had been there longest was automatically appointed to a chair position. However, in 1975, the Democrats began to challenge the seniority rule after they put up 3 candidates for election and 3 senior long-serving chair members were voted to be replaced. As a result, loyalty to the party leadership is considered when committee chairs are appointed, rather than seniority. Criticisms of the committee system. They have no actual power in enforcing the legislation they debate, therefore the rest of the Congress and the President could just ignore them. It also causes big delays in the passing of legislation, which slows down the whole legislative process. Members of the committee are selected by a committee, which means they may not be appointed on who has the most expertise in a committee, but rather to who is most loyal to a party. Although lots of time can be spent debating legislation, a lot of legislation that is debated doesn't even make it to be debated on the floor of the House or the Senate, which is a waste of time. The Senators' and Representatives' time could be used more effectively elsewhere. There are currently 6,850 bills and resolutions before the United States Congress, and of these, only about 5% become law. The House Rules Committee has more power than it should have, as it decides which legislation is debated. This means that it can choose legislation that fits with the majority party's agenda, not legislation that might be needed more.
Judgment on the power of committees in US politics. In my opinion, committees are too powerful in the US system. Unlike the UK, where the committee stage comes after the debate in the House, in Congress, the committees are handed a bill immediately after it is introduced. They have the power to alter legislation hugely from the purpose it was intended for, to the extent that the initial legislation is never debated. The majority and minority speakers in the House appoint representatives to committees, meaning they are not democratically elected. For an appointed committee to have so much power is unfair. The committee chair has the power to set the agenda of the committee, allowing him or her to effectively choose which bills he wants to proceed further in the legislative process. Many important bills can get stuck in the committees or change so much that the bill passed is unrecognisable from the bill which the sponsors wanted to pass, which is why the committee system is unfair.